Hi, folks. Nick Tockard here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Well, before we get started, we got to go through our spiel. The Historical Fencing Guild is brought to you by my lovely patrons, featuring Steve Augosto, Cindy Kep, and Kay Morris and Stephanie Mari, named every shift. It's also brought to you by my Amazon sales, including The Simple Sword, my guide to learning the basics of Western martial arts in such a way that is presentable to everybody, regardless of physical, mental, you must be able to read and comprehend the idea, and financial limitations. So pick that up. I also fund things by my Big Stompy Robots line of games, because gaming shouldn't be hard and it shouldn't be time-consuming. Games should be fast, easy, fun to learn. All right, with that out of the way, how are you guys doing? I tell you what, I am feeling great. I know this has been a rough week. 2021 is really coming in swinging, and that's okay too. I say that because we're going to get through it. I've got a pretty good show planned tonight. We've got some things to talk about. We've got some new product news. But before we get into that, howdy, Cindy Kep. What you guys don't know is I have a co-host today, and not Lydia. She is on a smoking break. I don't know if she should be smoking, but that's Lydia. She does that. No, my manatee. This beautiful little guy was made to me by our very own Cindy. Given to me, made for me by our very own Cindy Kep. Isn't he adorable? His name is Zen, and I will love him forever. That actually has some references to things you guys don't know. But, okay, so thank you, Cindy. I'm going to be plugging that. Cindy has a website where you can purchase her awesome crochet things, aside from her books, and I hope they're all tangled up in the www.ckoep.com. PP, there's two P's. My stuttering actually unstuttered that, so whatever. Look her up. She's amazing. We're also joined by Steve Clausen. Hello, sir. Yes, Lydia, my lovely assistant and office guardian who haunts the dreams and nightmares of those who run afoul of me. Yes, she's currently on break right now. She's had a fairly busy couple of weeks, having actually helped guest star on a very special episode of Stupid O'Clock with Joe McKeel. These things happen. But, okay, so we got good people talking. I have a knife review in the works, but I've been carrying that knife to get a feel for it and just came out of the shower, so it is not strapped in. We're just going to roll with that. So I'll probably do that as an individual. I also want to announce for my Patreon patrons, in the very near future, I'm going to be giving you guys a fairly extensive list of all the things I'm planning to be up to for 2021. I have a lot in the works, and some of it is guild related, some of it is Big Stompy Robots related. There may be some cons in the future as the world, once we all get our shots and we can get past the unspeakable danger virus, we can get rolling. But news and reviews. Guys, I got news. Let's hit the news first. I talked to Christian Dorse over at Purple Heart Armory. The rapier is still in the works. He wants it to be perfect, and I may have some plans to talk to him about some things later, maybe in the month, maybe a little later than that. We'll see. A lot of it depends on me getting, stimulating income and things. But right now they have a new sword, and while I'm talking to you, I will try to bring it up. But the website, guys. But yes, they've made a special rapier. Now, that's two P's, and I'm pretty sure it's meant to be designed for Meyer. I'm not 100% sure, but he's a really neat little trainer, and I want to talk about that. So, Doop. Bam. I love the way my shortcuts work at this point because the letter W actually brings up woodenswords.com. Now, if this will come online, bam. Yep. The basic trainer of the Meyer Rapier. Let me get this picture up. It's at the $65 price point, but folks, tell me that's not a cool looking trainer. That's a very distinctive, and he's starting to make knuckle guards. This means all I have to do is get him to put a nice a bell on there, and we could get something else. So this is really cool. And he mentioned it, and it just looks amazing. So I'm using my high-tech picture-in-picture. Yeah. I'll try to remember to add links to that. There's some neat stuff coming down the pipe. Also, my endless frustration is this weapon is classified a bilbo. That basically, they usually had wider blades, but this weapon is a bilbo. There is a company, and I will try to bring that up, called Wolf Tactical. They do polypropylene shorts, has done a polypropylene sting trainer. That's right. For all you Hobbit fans, they've made a likely unlicensed, but, close enough, a sting trainer. So that is really cool. And I'm good. While my internet clicks and whirs on my picture-in-picture, I'm so glad they didn't call it a bilbo, because I'm still trying to track down one of these in a light, fast weapon, which will bring us to the other bit that I really am excited about, but I'm kind of knocking these out a little faster than maybe I was ready for. Whoop. And you're hearing my lovely typing, which is incredibly fast at this time of night. Let's see if I can get this on my first search. No, it's not coming up right. Anyway, Wolf with an E. There we go. That's better. Why is that? We'll get there. We will get there. But while that's going on, I want you guys to brainstorm for me what you want to see come out of 2021. While we're adapting, before we can obviously get practices going again, what do you want to see? Now, the Wolf trainer, this is the Sting short sword trainer that is put out by Wolf Tactical. Now, I'm looking to see if it has a maker's mark, because that looks very much like the Wuja or the Waju. I say it wrong. Swords like the cutlass I have. And this company, whoops, I have a stack of trainers a little higher than usual, is the ones that made this. So by the make, I'm almost 100% it's the same source company. So that tells me a lot about the quality. It tells me a lot of how it's going to handle. It'll be a little light. But I want to talk, guys, because this is actually going to carry over into something else. Well, two somethings. Our good friends at Cold Steel are looking for what knife and sword lines that have been discontinued the fans want brought back. So having seen that come up in the news, I want you guys to go over, and it was on their YouTube channel, to look up through, and the things you can't find anymore, put it up. Me, naturally, I hounded them about making a sword that matches the Cold Steel parry dagger, because I'm still after a light, cheap, effective weapon. Now, that journey has been just that. It has been an ongoing journey as I try to find the perfect piece of equipment to offset the injuries and financial limitations that not only myself but many of my viewers have. So there's a lot of that coming up, and as we know, I talked about, I do custom weapons and I do custom modifications. So everyone here by now should be familiar with my version of, my first version of a small sword. And this is a modified Wuja Jin. I got two of them for 20 some odd bucks back in the day. I actually had only ordered one. They sent me two. Don't know how that happened, but God bless it. And I made a fairly feasible, very nice little short sword kind of rapier rig. And you guys have watched this. It does still need some repair. I have to get some epoxy, but I have found that hand trimmers and epoxy don't go well together. So that project has been on hold. My bottles are working. My wife got me some more of those bottles. Those are great. But I do good until it starts getting late in the night. And I've been doing a lot lately. But these are great. But even with the beveling I did, and I'm going to show you what I found my original one of these, because I got them in a pair and the pommel broke off, and I'll explain what happened there. And I whittled it down, but it's still a bit tangling with the hand guards. And as I hate the feeling of fire coming from my fingertips, I'm going to make a new trainer that's smaller, a base, and the idea was I just order another one. So you can't buy, obviously, this rig without, getting somebody like me the parts and all that. But you can buy what I based it off of. And this is the original Wuja Jin trainer. Now, if you look in some of my older videos, you'll see I used to spar a lot with Marco. I'm sorry, my friend Sorsage. And we sparred with this, but it is not a flawless weapon. It has some hiccups. And the big hiccup being this little clip-on pommel is just for display. It's decorative. Wibbly. Yes, these are wibbly. And it is a bit wibbly, but I'll forgive that for people with calibration issues or need a light weapon. And it's much safer than a foil because it's not going to break like a foil blade does. And it's around that price point. But the guard pops off, which is kind of cool. And this part is prone to breakage, especially since with this hole, a lot of people who get this, when they store the sword, they need to store it somewhere. They just, you want it to be, ooh, that's fun. Ooh, that's fun. Hold on. There we go. They want it to be stored like this. It's very easy to just put this on a nail hook, nail or something, a little hook, hang it through. It hangs nice. The problem is, if you grip this wrong, as an old member of the guild used to, you will snap the end right off. It was poorly designed. But for my purposes of something to butcher a bit, it has potential. I wasn't sure I wanted to break it, so I'm like, I'll order a new one. Something happened. What do I do with guild money? Well, I replace things. I ordered a new one. And these are very much not the same. Same maker Mark, which Let me see if I can get it where you can see it. Ow. Come on, Nick. Okay, there we go. You see that funny little emblem? This is a version 1, and I don't know how they are delineating them. This is a version 2. Same maker. What is different? Well, the length is just about a quarter of an inch longer. Right? It's hard, very, very difficult to show, but it is just, and because of the camera angles, I can't get it. You'll have to trust me on this one. It is, oh wow, no, it's actually a quarter of an inch shorter. It's just a bit shorter. That doesn't bother me. Now, the other thing, this is not a removable piece. This is all one piece, pre-assembled, one unit. And the grip is a bit larger. It is also got the stacked ring look to make it more grippy when your hands get sweaty. These are all features I can see the vast majority of users liking better. A lot of people I know complained that this was a little narrow. It's a case of the size of the Asian market of users versus perhaps the American market of users. The piece is not nearly as detailed, and that might make it a little less likely to show damage. And there is no, well, there's very limited design on the blade. So that leaves me with the quandary of, do I cut this new one up and make a light short sword out of just the blade portion, or do I order another one as money provides? Now, I managed to get these on sale, and I mentioned the sale for like $17, which is very cost effective. So I may just order another one of these guys and then cut it off here, narrow it down, and use this like I would a blade blank to make something that would be a little shorter than that. Wow. Okay, so give me just a second. I hope I don't get in trouble with YouTube. It's one of those days. I'm not going to stop the feed because this is what they call good television in certain circles. It knocked everything over, and yeah, that's gonna be a pain in my bum. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Yeah, guys, you gotta make do. Oh, and the Luke sign was on my wall when I joined. You can see part of my gargoyle collection there. Isn't that nice? My plan for today actually was to work on that very problem, but it's out. So we've got it mostly fixed. At least it's entertaining. I hope you guys find moments like that fun. I do plan to redo my backdrop. Ooh. I'm gonna tell you, cute. Yeah. Yakety sax for days. Wrong hand, Nick. Let's put the heavy drink on the side with the better hand. Mostly. So yeah, that's entertainment. Wow. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna stop. When things go wrong, we don't stop. We just kind of power through. We laugh at the cringe and we keep moving. I had a question through my direct message last week that I needed to address. So I told them I would answer it here, and here it is. They wanted to know what this is, because apparently somebody thought it was a very cool little rig. And this knife, or the man behind the curtain, basically my gargoyles and Bob the Skull were all just laughing hysterically at me. Well, not all of them, but enough of them. I do collect gargoyles. Although my manatee is so awesome. Zen wouldn't laugh at me. He's nice. This is by a company called GTMA. It is the plastic parentheses poly dragon knife, and it runs $9.95, and it is made in Taiwan. It's plastic, and ironically, despite being sold under different names, it has the exact same maker's mark as the other weapons. So I'm still having trouble finding which is the root company, as there are a lot of people who market and sell these guys. That's one. So sometimes even by multiple names. But yes, that's where this little knife, I still would be very hesitant if I were planning to let anyone else use this for practice. I probably would grind off large portions of the pointy bits and round it just to make it a little safer to handle. It is very jagged and very aggressive on a punch. But my problem with this, even though I do love it, where are my fair daggers? They probably all fell down. Zen, have you seen them? Well, you haven't been here long enough to know where they live. Anyway, the Cold Steel Parry daggers are on sale right now for $12.99 on Amazon with free shipping. So I would say you throw the extra $3 and you get one of the best parry daggers on the planet. Unless you're expressly looking for a knuckle duster style post-apocalyptic trench knife rig. And I'm not bashing this. I like its flatness. It has that very minimalist kind of lock-in, fun-to-use tool set. So this is a good little knife. It's just, it takes a certain design aesthetic. My friend Skunk Rocker, I'll have to ask him. He's through Stupid Clock. Would probably love this because this just fits his overall motif, especially in the natural black. Remember, any orange weapon I hold up, unless I expressly say so, I have spray painted orange for visibility. Punchy stabby. Yeah, this is a great, I need a weapon and I don't know how to weapon, where you could use this and make it go very naturally. This was actually donated by Steve Clausen. So yes, thank you. Your donations make this good stuff possible. So yeah, I will be trying to track down more of these guys. I'll probably do a full review on this, possibly compare and contrasting that in a separate video, because people like that. But it is low end and it is Taiwanese. I still would prefer to buy from Purple Heart Armory, and I know in the past Christian has done custom work. That's how. Hold on, dear Lord in heaven, that was uncomfortable. That's how this guy came into being, and this is very close to how a Bilbao should feel. You know, it's a short, broad, straight sword, ironically cavalry based. Really neat little weapon. But you gotta be comfortable contacting these people, okay? This might sound odd, but you're paying them to make you to sell you products, and sometimes to make you products. It just makes sense to contact them and communicate what you want. And if they won't communicate and they won't give you what you want, then go somewhere else or do it yourself or like it and lump it. But I'm really prone to, we need to have more direct conversation between the people who make the training gear and the people who use said training gear. Every time that happens, you get better gear. That's how you get things like, although it's way out of my budget, but the Pro Gauntlet that Purple Heart is putting out. People wanted the poly-style plastic articulated gauntlets that they could use that don't weigh 6,000 pounds. And that's what's a good thing to have. You can't be afraid to ask and innovate and seek out. There are a lot of tools out there that will let you make some amazing stuff. And depending on it, like this is still one of my favorite knife trainers I've ever made. It is one of the simplest, most basic things I've ever done, but it's very, very effective, very realistic, very practical, and in my end, exceptionally cheap. When I made this, I made several swords. I made a couple, I think, axes. I made all sorts of things. But if I were to go through my favorite creation of that whole lot, it would come down to stabbing the knife here, because it just works, and it works in a way that any training I do with this, at night, if I'm near the knife block, it's going to move and function very much like this. The edge geometry is similar. The balance and weight is not that far off. And even with you try and get where you can see, the metal brace that keeps my hand aligned, which is currently the bane of my existence when it comes to this sort of thing, I can still lock in, and it's funny. Yeah, I'm not hard on these things at all. Only had this a couple weeks. But as you can see, I'm taking it easy. I can still lock in, keep a positive grip with that, and not lose it. So that tells me that design works. It's funny because for a long time, Cold Steel put out, well, I don't think they even put out, I think they more merchanted other people's very minimalist knives. Full tang, little bit of guard, very low end, nothing fancy for short swords and knives. And I find myself, looking them up more, because while they weren't comfortable to hold before this became my reality, working around the potential of assorted wrist brace, I was laughing because if I wore all the braces I'm supposed to wear at the same time, it would basically tally up to an exosuit. I mean, I'm pretty much turning into the guy from Mantis. And that is what it is. God. But that's coming up. What else is coming up that is warranted in our discussion? Let me look. I feel like I forgot something on my here we go. Cold Steel Trainer sale, Wolf Tactical sale, telling you what the knife is, that rapier, that I just adore what Christian's doing down at Purple Heart. I just adore it because the mentality of using simple production means to try to bring the cost down. Really, anybody who knows my assorted other projects, when I make my own big stompy robots and things, knows that is my bailiwick, and I highly respect it. I had actually considered doing similar myself, but I don't want to compete with the guy. I respect what he's doing too much. If he ever stopped, but I also have been tracking down those knives, and there are basically 4 producers that are from Asia. GTMA, Ebogu, Wuja, and polypropylene tree. You're going to find, you can search these companies on Amazon and find them listing, and you're going to find the same products sometimes under different names, or incredibly similar products under different names. Now, why do I surf this so hard? What's a few bucks? Well, whenever I get the guild going again, and with the assistance to reset things, I've been blessed with many possessions, and sometimes I feel like they possess me more than I possess them. But when I can get some things moved around, I'm looking for the sweet spot. I'm looking for the right set of gear so that eventually I can supply. My base number is 10. 10 sets of gear. Bam, bam, bam. Match sets of uniform beginner gear. And the idea being, if it's inexpensive enough, I can set it as a practice set, kind of check it out to people who I work with, and then if they want to buy the set they've been training with, they can buy it from me at cost, and I'll just use that money to order a new one. It's something I've been working on for a while, with the understanding that my personal set will probably have some radical adaptations if I'm going to be able to keep doing this. And if I'm not, there is a reality where I'll probably be in a wheelchair. If the neuropathy progresses, as it progresses, it's just a reality. But I want to keep trying to train people as long as I can. And the pandemic took a lot of time for me that I considered prime Nick can do things time. I'm still fighting that. I'm still making choices. But we can make things and have it go much better. So if you're looking for your own gear, and so you're training from home, these are companies to look up, and just price check everything. I may just do a whole video on suppliers, what I like, what I don't like. Now, a lot of people ask me about Black Fencer, and Black Fencer is one of the high-end synthetic trainer companies out of Europe, and they supply through a company called South Coast Swords, SCS, South Coast Swords, and they ship them over here. Now they have some beautiful high-end stuff, but it is also very, very pricey. And it's most of it's comparable with Purple Heart's Penti line. But again, Purple Heart is an American company. So supply and demand is much faster. South Coast Swords is notorious for being out of stock of popular items. Depending on my health, I will be doing an order from Purple Heart. There are a couple things I just want. And there has to be a time where you just admit you just want it. And from their basic trainer line, I can afford it. Maybe, Basically, with your help, I can afford it, and then I can show you guys how to make stuff go. It is interesting that the plastics have evolved where it's starting to cross over into different territory. Several of there are, let me think, Leon Paul and Purple and Blue Gauntlet, sorry, not Purple, both have synthetic sabers that look promising. There is a line of synthetic foils that look very promising. They're at about a $45 price range. and they are not electric. Now, some of them have push buttons, and they're electric in that they have noise, so you can actually distinctly hear the buzzer on tip contact. I think that's fascinating, and they're marketing it towards children. Now, the other thing that's really interesting that I'm seeing really move forward, and it kind of it was lurching forward heavily in 2019, and it 2020 paused the world. But the combat lightsabers, the high-end sparring sabers, have that's not good. Really come along to the point that they're doing actual ranked lightsaber duel competitions. This is one of those things I find both beautiful and earth-shatteringly annoying because there are a lot of style points involved. And as much as I love lightsaber combat, and I do love me some good Jedi on Jedi action, a little bit of Jedi Sith, yeah, we'll take it, But it's so showy. It's so pretty. And a part of me will always feel like it's wasted energy. I am a devout minimalist when it comes to fighting styles. And it's just interesting to see how that moves when you look at it against okay, that's done for a while. You see, again, something like foil fencing, which is so narrow in scope. It's okay. The actual space the combat takes place in, the blade to blade stuff is very, very narrow target region. And then you compare it with lightsaber, which is the ultimate swirl bomb. I'm also pleased that saber, there are some regulations about the rigidity of saber blades being tossed around because the wrap flip shots that rely on the flexibility of the blade to deliver the attack have sort of stolen, and at least in my opinion, the saberness from saber fighting. And I think as a direct response to the HEMA movement, more realistic martial saber versus sport is sort of devolving, re-evolving, it's re-emerging. A very atavisal style of swordplay. This is fascinating stuff, but I really hope you guys can keep track of that as things progress. I want to do. My plan for this year was a big focus on the hand axe. It was really I was going to focus on hand axes and felling axes, tomahawks, a whole arc on that, and I will be writing about it best I can. I will see about demonstrations. And unfortunately, if I'm going to be honest with myself and honest with you, it is what I can do on any given day is radically affected by things like pressure fronts and other exertion and diet. It's a whole gobbledygook. So I am fighting, and I'm fighting very hard to stay useful and functional. And as long as I can, I will provide that sort of thing. When I can't, I'll just fall back into a more critiquing, discussing set of services. Because I'm reaching the point where I've laid my bona fides on the table a bit. And I'm comfortable saying, this is my opinion on X, Y, or Z. This is why it's a fairly studied opinion. I try to stay abreast of things. Like it, lump it, or move on. That's just part of the journey. So, so what we're gonna have is a balance of things, and that's okay. The subtle balance of things has been it's been coming for a while, and that's good. Adaptation is what we're about. Now, I know John isn't watching right now, but John Miner contacted me and commented on some of, I believe, last week's video, and that's okay. I want you guys to understand something. If you're watching this in the rerun, if you're watching this after it was live, when it's in archive or whatever, if you just stumbled across it, feel free to comment. I check my comments from months or years ago, and I may have to rewatch my video. I may have to rewatch a video I was talking about because it's been a few months, but I will get back to you because this needs to be a discussion. Anybody can go, look, I'm cool. I'm doing something cool. Let's talk about the relative coolness. And they can populate an hour, 2 hours. And let's be honest, we've had years of politicians doing it. But it's much more important, I think, to be able to address questions, to address comments, to answer things people are looking for. And I do take commentary, and I do take requests heavily in mind. So there's a lot to process. I'm not sure if there are people who are 300 fans on my channel. That was a movie that was everything for a while, and then it faded out, but there will always be ties. Wolf Tactical actually put out some Copai? I think the sword from 300 in polypropylene, but they're starting to include nylon sheaths. And I really would like to see... sorry. City Cap. You have to take care of you. Some days will be more interesting than others. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as this broadcast kind of is demonstrating, I went from feeling pretty good today. I've been mostly careful to having to reach up and do very fast, very fine things to resecure my curtain. And that basically ironically, my finger is non-voluntarily flicking me off in this moment. That's why my right hand is off screen, because the spasms are making a gesture that I would not put up intentionally on YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else, because that's just the way things work. So it is fascinating, but a lot of it is the phobia of being useless, the phobia of being not an invalid, but being invalid, is a terrifying thing. And it's something that not only I work with, but a lot of my students over the years have dealt with. You come, you go, health, mental state, it all deteriorates. And let's be honest, if anybody didn't have a little sleep deprivation this week, they weren't paying attention to current events. Now, that's not what this channel is about per se, so I'm not going to get heavily into it here. For the same reason I keep washing and leaving this shirt out for my broadcasts. I do wash it. This has become my unofficial I'm streaming shirt because it's fun, and we need fun, and we need happy, we need joy, and we need to find ways to build and preserve it. The people who follow me on Facebook know I recently posted that I realized several of my friends have come under the misunderstanding that they're NPCs, that they are not relevant to their own story, or that their relevance is much more limited than I believe it to be. 1 second. One of my favorite movies that I don't watch nearly enough was called Stardust. It had Well, it had De Niro in it as Shakespeare. A wonderful character. I mean, never would have imagined that, but part of it, when Elaine's talking, God, I lost his name, lost the main character's name. But it's like, there are shop boys, and there are boys who just happen to be working in a shop. And right now, that is something people forget. I believe that the situation has made them lose track that we are more than what some of us to survive have had to do things like hunker down on the couch to the point that it's relatively impacting our health, and we're trying to find new ways to deal with it. Lord knows I am, but it's easy to get convinced that we are small or unimportant. And I have been around a while, and I don't think I've ever met somebody who was unimportant. I've been to a lot of people's funerals. I've been to a lot of funerals of people I knew, and for a time, a lot of people that I had no idea about. I was providing transport, and that was my thing. You take the person who wants to go to the funeral, and you do it. So I saw the aftermath. And I found it fascinating because I'm an avid people watcher. The behaviors, the tropes of things like funerals. And one thing is that the person who passes, I don't think ever truly grasps the importance of their place in people's lives. And there's always a point where people did not grasp their importance in their life till after they're gone. So I always try to look at people like, I'm only going to have you for a minute. Our mortality, while being, humanity's perhaps greatest failing in some eyes, is also an infathomable motivator if you allow it. I was big into the ethical atheists. Yes, I am personally very spiritual. I am semi-religious. I am a Christian without a church is the best way to put it. And I don't judge much on anybody else's opinions. I find what people believe and how they get there interesting, and I respect their agency to do so. But if you look at, we only have X amount of time on this earth, and we all only have X amount, and none of us know what X is. There's an obligation and a necessity to try to make it as pleasant as possible for everybody. And that's not a common thing that's discussed because we don't like thinking about mortality. But if we are training as warriors, as swordsmen, as sword ladies, as sword individuals, we live in an era where pronouns get much more complicated than they used to. And I respect that, even if I'm not always sure how to navigate it because it's such a personal thing. But as that happens, and as we can, part of training in something that involves violence, and have no doubt, anytime you train with a sword, violence is integral by the definition. You have to look at the effect violence has, obviously, on the opponent and on yourself, and not just physical. And there's a responsibility that is often neglected, and it doesn't go away. There's a myth that I find that people who think about violence but don't appreciate the realities of what violence is think it ends, and the foundation of something like PTSD is a mental cyclic process where we relive the pain and the memory of the incident or environment or times involved so long that constantly reopens the wound, and it never lets the mental wounds heal. John Miner says violence is what we do: kill, maim, and dismember. Yes, that is a fundamental thing of real violence. But one, as much as I love the swords, and I have a intense philosophical tie. I have an intense philosophical bordering on the religious side to the spirituality of the martial arts. It's a complex subject. I aspire for a world where my skills are useless. And we should all do that. And I don't usually say we should all lightly, because I hate that broadcast. And thank you for joining us tonight, John. In case you missed it, I have a manatee. But if we're going to talk violence and we're going to talk morality, we have to understand what we're doing, what we're inflicting on someone else, and what we're inflicting on ourselves in that process. People with chronic injuries, people with chronic ailments, and people with chronic mental health issues get that, because you never know. So, one, we have to understand what the infliction of violence costs, what it's about. And we also have to understand and weigh that against the prevention of infliction of violence, not just from ourselves, by ourselves, but by others to the people we care about. And that's where it gets much more tricky, because the reality is we do live in a world where outside the door there are individuals who would do you harm for their own amusement, or to take what you have, or because it is a Friday, evil walks on 2 feet, but there's also good, and there's also defense, and they're all, and we have to weigh that as well. And not only do we have to, ironically, keep that in mind, but for those of us who have the capabilities to defend ourselves and those we love, we have a moral obligation to learn how to do that to the best of our abilities, which is part of why this stuff, the braces and the gimping and the crutches and stuff, get to me. Because I've been in situations where I was only able to survive because I had capacities. And some of those capacities aren't there now. John Miner says, you are correct. We should strive for a world without violence and practice only to improve ourselves. I'm sorry I missed the opening. I came in late. John, that is absolutely okay. You did miss quite an opening. We had some product news. I dropped the curtain, spazzed my hand. Whole Benny Hill grade show, but you can check that in the rerun. As soon as, in about an hour, this will be up. You can go see the first parts you missed. I don't take any offense. And of course, John comments and talks to me quite a bit. We're old friends. He talks about the shows that he misses, because of work or situation or driving. I get that. I'm not going to give you any flack. Hit the like button, though, so that the YouTube algorithm doesn't take my show down. Interesting on that, YouTube is actually removing subscribers from channels if they don't interact enough. It's part of basically making monetization a little more difficult. So keep that in mind, YouTubers. Thank you, John. I saw the like hit. So yeah, there's a lot. Now, as I said, I am planning in the very near future to post sort of a 2021 bucket list, what I want to try to knock out in projects. And because I only have one Patreon, I don't have a Patreon for my art and a Patreon for the guild and a Patreon for this. It'll all go there for the people who are interested. Okay, Monterey is 2 hours difference in time, so I just got off work. 3 hours. I appreciate you still catching things, and that is beautiful country. So, I'll take a moment for California dreaming on such a winter's day. But we're at almost the hour, so I'm going to remind folks that the Historical Fencing Guild's live stream is brought to you by the Simple Sword, available through Amazon at www.amazon.com/author/Nicholas Tucker. That's me. And the Big Stompy Robots series of games, also available through Amazon. I also, as usual, want to thank my Patreon members, those being Steve Augosto, Cindy Kep, Brian K. Morris, and Stephanie Marie, as well as my supporters, Steve Clausen and John Miner, which you guys are very represented right here. I'm glad to see it. John, as happy as I am that you're in California, can't wait for you to get back to Indiana and your workshop knocking out amazing goodies. Just because the Swakhammer metal stuff is glorious, as long as you slow down and polish your welds up, keep it clean. That is an inside joke between John and I. I am not riding him nearly as hard as it sounds. Oh, but so what? Second hour tends to be a little looser, and boy, do we need it. We've got some good stuff coming down the pipe. The Star Wars is blowing up. The Mandalorian has become a cultural phenomenon, and it made my 2020. The Mandalorian is one of the best things to come out of 2020 in entertainment. And the changes I'm seeing in Star Wars, thanks to Dave Filoni especially, it appeals. We're going to get more live action lightsaber combat, and that's going to be fun to see. I'm still looking to see if I can find anyone who has opinions on I have to find a poker chip and see if I can get that to loosen things up. But opinions on the lightsaber combat and the sparring sabers. Now, the reason I'm mentioning these are we are living in a more turbulent time. Okay? So, I guess I'm going to get a little practical. If you are training, if you are sword fighting, if you are drilling with someone, get cheap droppable gear painted orange. Make sure, or some other obvious non-threatening thing. Because I have had occasions where we've had visitations by the different county's finest, and when a police officer visits you because you're out front of your home or you're at a park or whatever, you want to make sure that there is no chance of misunderstandings. So making sure that your trainers are identifiably set up as just that. They're trainers. They're not, fighting. This is another part of why you never fight angry, guys. If you are upset, if you're genuinely cheesed about something, take it to the Pell, okay? Take it to the heavy bag. Take it to a Target and work it out but don't bring that emotion onto my list field. And the fact that I went into my list field means that's an old lecture. But you don't fight angry because it makes you dumb. That's been proven. And you don't fight angry because you don't want any issues should the police roll up. And that feeds back to lightsabers. I'm watching these goofy lightsabers because they may be a good way for some people to drill in a fashion where they don't have to worry about being misconstrued as something more serious. I know a lot of the trainers, especially the black ones, something like this, which I love, in somebody's hand looks like, this obviously looks like a weapon, but it has enough where they could think it's plastic and you can drop it and do it. I don't care what's going on. Disarm yourself with the weapon. Because, let me see. I want to find something that looks spooky. Okay, there we go. These are dirty because they ended up in when my garage flooded. And that's part of the reason why I like these things, is that the dirt washes off. You don't want to be holding a trainer that looks this color when, someone approaches you. And this is actually a cold steel K-bar trainer. I'm pretty sure it's called a K-bar trainer, but that's what it is. It's by Cold Steel. It's one of my favorite trainers. This is another Steve donation. Because I had this silly idea that if you're going to carry a weapon and use a weapon, you should have some semblance of a trainer. Now, obviously, this is longer, but the basic idea, grip, and function is very similar. So, yes, train with what you have. But don't, I may end up spray painting things orange for that person. I'm also going to show you something. This is a pistol trainer. Now, these were, again, donated by Steve Clausen. There is no trigger, obviously, so proper trigger discipline. My hand is slipping involuntarily, so I'm going to switch it over here so that there's no issue. And as you can see, it's black at its core. But if you have one of these, you definitely want to drop it around the police. Don't point it at anybody. And I know that sounds boring and reasonable, but it needs to be said. Like I said, trigger discipline should be here. That's part of why I'm not carrying stuff right now. I will be doing reviews on most of these guys. For example, this is another cold steel. This is a Cricket. This is CRKT. This is one of my favorite trainers in existence. It's insanely aggressive. I do not own this knife. I may someday, because this actually, I'm going to fly my geek flag. When I'm raw, I have a Dungeons and Dragons character that I've ran both as an NPC and a PC for a very long time, who has a distinctive knife, and his knife looks pretty much exactly like this. I did it before I found out that they made this trainer and that this was a real knife, but I love this thing, and it just occurred to me how nice, even with my bad hand, that. So I'm going to have to look up. Well, Steve, this is Steve's donation. Do you remember, if you're still watching, the name of this model of knife? So I don't have to go looking it up right now, because this fits stupendously well. In that this is a very orthopedic grip. And ironically, I'd almost suggest something like this for Cindy Kep, because what you have is very positive grip. You lock in, and for somebody who is used to a sword style thumb on the spine of the knife, So instead of locking in ice pick, you'll notice the ones that are most comfortable for me allow for that. That's a fencer's trick. That's a blade alignment knife. That's it's one of those, you get training scars from whatever you do. Some aren't even bad, but they are there. What do I mean by training scars? I've yet to see somebody who does a lot of karate not open up in a horse stance. Wide open legs, low. Oh. Oftentimes that grunt thing. Oh, you know? Boxers for days. This is how a boxer's gonna take, that low, and you'll see, the muscle memory of a boxer is fascinating to me, because very often the fist isn't closed. Longtime boxers' fists don't actually close that well because they've trained around the gloves, the boxing gloves, the mitts. So a lot of times you get this. Krav Maga guys have a very similar thing where they keep the hooks open. They still strike, but the hooks are open to make the grab easier. And that's a training scar. If it's a bad habit, it's a training scar. If it's a good habit, it's more of a stance definer, but it's all left over. For example, I had a flaw taught into me. Well, yeah, John, one, you're not a karate guy. Two, yeah, you fight a modified cat stance, but you're a Hapkido guy. You're much more Hapkido, Hapkido, power arts, and Tai Chi, which is still unholy. But with pincher wrestling, you still have a bit of a wrestling move, but that might just be because you did enough sword and board. Sword and board fighters move surprisingly like wrestlers. But what I'm saying is they're flaws. And one thing was, I was taught a karate block for my outside parry that it took me years to get away from, where the sword's coming in and hand parry a rapier is an out motion, and I'm very careful to teach it. I was taught first the lock it up, which is a karate-based thing. I believe that was my weakness that was trained into me. But knife fighters from prison keep the knife close and short, stabbed in usually, because they're all about being discreet about it. Knife fighting techniques from Folsom City, knife fighting techniques from Folsom Prison is actually a book. Everyone who thinks they're handling knife fighting should read it. It is not the best book, but it's a necessary perspective to get the shiny off. But yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up, because I just went. And this, guys, is another reason why I love trainers, because a knife like this would be very expensive to purchase sight unseen. And I have several cold steel and cricket knives from that collection. And part of my goal is I want to do an individual review for everything in that box. What works best, what doesn't, as part of compilation. Because this is nearly a CX. I mean, this is a very, and again, it locks in. I find myself looking for knives that lock in positively with the grit. Korean Rock Marine knife. Yeah, well, Korean Rock Marines are by definition sneaky. Rock Marine knife techniques, yeah. And that's a little more forward usually, but it's also usually a bigger knife. And it's hard for certain types of small motions to work with you, because by scale, what would be a tiny knife to fit in my hand would be, to work for you, would almost have to be double or triple the size. So for you to get I almost said karambit. Dang it, Steve. A cricket minimalist. which this is the Bowie style blade. I like the drop point better, but my wife gave me this and it had gears painted, and I've actually worn them off to tell you how much I use this knife. But this fits my hand really well. If I were John and I wanted one of these, I would simply double all the proportions. It would be that long, that wide, same scoops. It would fit the same way in his meat hook. Put it on a Kydex sheath, hang around your neck, and life is good. I have another knife I'm going to review. It is not in the room right now because it is sitting in my bathroom from when I took my braces off to take a shower. Master Soul, now I teach you, big boy, standing on my chest. Yes, John, you and Steve, one of these days, and I want to be there when you compare stories, because I think you may have met the same tiny, angry Korean man. Because you have virtually the same story, and one of my great mysteries in life is either it's the same Korean man or like they're very similar. They're from the same school, possibly the same training genealogy. There's a fun term, training genealogy. This is a concept that I think Cindy Cat might have fun just rolling around in the back of her mind. For example, in the SCA, I trained under Aidan McDougall. I trained under John Miner. Aidan trained under Nighthawk. Bob and Jody, who I sparred with, I really didn't train under them. They were drilling partners, and they would make commentary, but I didn't really feel that line. So it's a different lineup. It's a different experience. And I can look up the people that Ray trained under, and you can find threads. The Korean guy who taught things to John. I learned from John. And all this it gives a genealogical analysis of where your fighting comes from. And that's almost as important, if not more important, than your actual genealogy. Because after a while, you watch how somebody fights, and you can tell what they are inclined to do just by how they move. Yes, and one thing that is one of my favorite tropes is a variant on the cliffside fight duel between Wesley and Dread Pirate Roberts. And I've seen it done a little bit, but not often, not nearly often enough, where two people are fighting and they realize either, wow, we both trained under the same dude, or I fought somebody and you fight like them. It's a great way to reveal backstories. John Miner says, I studied the design, and he said they are clones. A Korean martial arts cloning facility. That's drunken fencing. Now, drunken fencing is an interesting history that got realigned by the people who actually did it versus the people who claimed it, and it gets real shady real fast. Because what happens at practices doesn't necessarily get seen at events. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. But yes, exactly. And understanding that, wow, that really is a nice knife. You know, a grip is good when it takes the pain away. I don't know if you guys have ever encountered this, but where you're hurting and, adjusting the grip not only takes the pain away, but kind of soothes it. I'm almost tempted to just carry this trainer around for a while because it's resting the hand. It's so natural that it's taking some of the pain out of my wrist and elbow. and it has the upward grip for the swicky. But I like to keep below the guard. This is nice. Like, I'm gonna have to look this back up. I might even make a non-sculpted, narrower version. So I'll be looking into this. Thank you again, Steve. Yes, at John, Cindy Kep says, at John Miner, I am interested in seeing what you come up with. John says, you will. It takes the pain from you and delivers it to your opponent. That's getting awful close to what Av does anyway. What a delightful inverse, the Corsican dagger kind of thing. But we're having fun. This is good tropery here. But yes, this is something I'm going to be looking into, because I'm not a big knife guy. Nick, no. I'm a little knife guy. I'm not a big knife guy usually. But this also, if you look, fits in the definition of a dagger in length. This is almost a short sword by the length of my raw shortness. This is as long as my forearm. So this is about the top length of a knife. I really like this, and I will probably be ordering. I might even order a second one of these trainers, because that is really nice. But that's why I love my box of tricks. I have all sorts of knives and goodies and trainers, and people really need to know that they're out there, because the more I handle this, the more I'm like, Cindy Kep, do you see this thing? Yeah, John, you're a giant, okay? So why don't you go grab yourself? Okay, you know what, John? Grab yourself a freaking chunk of 4x4 railroad tie, strap some wrapping tape around it, and use it as a baseball bat. Go! You got what? You got a hill giant talking to a hobbit about his knife. Yes, toothpick. You guys think this is fun? You really should see the two of us getting into discussions. Really passionate discussions. It's funny. I mean, it really looks like some kind of like small to medium-sized dog talking to a Kodiak bear, like roar, 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 roar. And I know I've done that. I'm not even surprised. You know what? It's not a soup can. Good God. It's also not Twisted Tea, for that matter, but womp, womp. Actually, wow, that is actually, it's actually surprisingly comfortable. But maybe I'll bug CRKT to make me one of these with a blade about that long. Two of these with a blade about that long. That's nice. It's only piracy if I sell it. It's a beautiful day in Nick's neighborhood. I'm not reading that comment. The folks can find it. Oh God, that reminds me of the other. I couldn't find that horrible joke for Stupid O'Clock, but now I can. Thank you, John. Now I have that horrible joke that's gonna get me in trouble. Probably tomorrow night if I'm up doing it. Oh God, this is why I love having these conversations, folks, because we can talk about things. We can talk about what trainers work. And you'll notice for large knives, this is a very good size. Actually, this is a very nice kind of combo, although I need to talk to CRKT, because I wonder if the guy who did this grip isn't the same guy, and I can't remember his name, who designed the minimalists. Because this is really, wow, this is almost the perfect version of a minimalist neck knife for you. I mean, like, that's not even. I'm genuinely serious. This would be almost a perfect minimalist neck knife for John Miner. I love this thing, and this thing is going to keep out in rotation. I'm going to see if I can use it for drilling, and if it's more comfortable. I only need about 2.5 blade lengths to have a really nice little sword. Marine K-Bar Florentine. I just had that trainer. I just had it. Yeah, there you go, John. This is the little K-Bar trainer. Well, this is the cold steel version. The Ontario would be hexagonal cap, but this is close enough for government work. Wow. The phrase close enough for government work is hilarious when you're talking about a knife. It just has a whole row of implications. So, let me see. Oh, there's the subhilt. There. Oh, that's good too. Catches a little bit. This is a subhilt that was done by Cold Steel. Another really good knife. These two play well together. Oh, these two play very well together. We just had to run into some handedness. So slightly lighter. But again, what this allows was something like this little spur. And this really goes to Cindy, because this is the minimalist version of what allows for that nice keyhole grip. I feel very comfortable with this type of knife because it's going to give you a good keyhole grip. It's going to feel very relaxed, and this weighs next to nothing. So getting a trainer or something with a blade of this style might really help the folks who have weaker hands, or I got a ping, so I have to check that. Well, yeah, Steve. And you know what? Steve sent me a picture of a sword, and I'm going to show you because there's nothing shady about that. Of course, I have to expand it because nobody needs to see our conversation. But you see this? This is a very nice. It looks like a CX. It looks wooden, actually. It is wooden. That's delightful. There are. M1 Marine Florentine blades are 3 inches longer. Those would be perfect for you, John. There's Paul. I saw. Purple Heart has trainers almost exactly that pattern, and one of the Kali. Well, that explains it. Kali's beautiful. Gotta love some Kali. Gotta love me some Scream of goodness. But yeah, that's gonna give you that flow. Now I do like a little bit more handguard because I'm incredibly Western. But this is nice. If the world changes, I may just end up having to consider carrying a slightly larger knife. I don't want. Well, these would be good outdoors. I'm the guy who would baton with one of these, but I'm going to go over some of the knives and trainers. Still, I got to figure out which one of these is more comfortable. So I'm going to put these guys down. I like this. I actually really like the way this locks in, but I don't necessarily like the thing. But look, Cindy, it's still a keyhole grip. The trainer, the hands for integration and control, that very minute controls, very easily acquired through something like that. There's a Russian, I want to say Russian sword. Well, let me just do something here. Because it was a set, that purple, what is that? I don't want that open. And I don't want that open. There we go. Back to Purple Heart Armory while I discuss this. That actually is very similar to that Kali trainer, and it comes with DVDs. Either DVDs or books. I think it's training books, and I cannot remember if it's Sam Shear or if it's Ooh, John got a new fixed blade hunter for Christmas, Damascus. Damascus is glorious, glorious. Because I knew I'd seen a trainer close enough. And see, it's funny because my dear friend Steve has the oddest mix of occasionally Russian fighting tendencies. This set, and it's on sale for $85, is two trainers of slightly longer version of what he was holding up, same style, grip, and everything, done by our friends at Purple Heart, with volume 1 and 2 of the training manuals. And that's all for $85 on sale from $100. And that was actually on my shop list for people who might want that. So this is, I don't know what I just inhaled. That's kind of troubling. This is fascinating because, I love how different cultures will come to the same general blade shapes. You see these geometries just come from various different places. A very similar knife will rise up, and we keep sort of rediscovering it. Rush in and kill them before they think you can get to them. Well, John, that's your method most of the time. You fight mostly like a landslide. Fighting you is basically like watching an avalanche come at you full of pokey things. You just sort of rise up, and then there's a sniper period, and then you break into just a full aggressive fighter. And I am using terms from the book for people who are following along. It is not fair to have somebody who can fight with you that way, but it is what happens. Oh, yeah, that looks, let me see. Yeah, that's literally what this trainer is, Steve. That saves me figuring out. This is one thing I like about companies like CRKT and Cold Steel. Now, Cold Steel gets a lot of flack. Their trainers tend to be heavy. Their sword trainers are notoriously heavy. But Steve referenced the Cold Steel OSS, which he sent me a picture of, which is this. That is what this is the trainer of. This is the trainer for that knife. Okay? That means let me try and get these scaled for you so you can see that I'm not BSing. This is important. And if you're looking to buy a knife, definitely consider something like that, because this way you can train with something with a similar build. From afar, we start jumping the shorts, slice and dice. Yeah. Well, see, okay. I'm tabling that for a second because we're going to talk about that. But yeah, so that is exactly. This is a very nice knife. What? Again, this for me is nearly a parry dagger. I can literally fight it like it's a parry dagger, just a minimalist guard. But yes, this is a nice knife. $50 is insanely expensive in my universe, but that's a very nice knife. Okay, let me get this closed up for a second. John's talking about jumping their shorts. Now we're going to talk about something that, since he's led up, we're going to talk about fighting big guys. Because I've actually had several people comment offline about John, asking, is he really as big as he's talking? Is he full of excrement? What's going on there? And the thing is, John is built like Hagrid. He is a very large man of roughly Celtic descent, billowy beard when he lets it go. Just a very tall, very long-armed, eerily agile for his size guy. And it literally is about giant fighting. I mean, this is where, especially when you're somebody who's smaller than I am, as a few people, who might end up sparring against somebody like John, there are rules for dealing with big guys. And I'm going to pull up the book because Fighting a much larger opponent is one of my sections. It's page 47. Okay? This picture was done to scale. This is actually representing a real demonstration that John Miner, the guy who's talking, and me, the short guy, have explained to people. Because the fact that somebody my size could hold my own against somebody his size, move fast and get inside their range is part of it, Cindy, but you have to be careful. And the problem with it is what you need to do, and it's hard without experience fighting the same person, but find out where their inertia break is. A large person, okay, either someone who's rather overweight or someone who's simply taller and muscular, still has to deal with certain laws of physics. That means it takes. Yeah, we absolutely. I learned to fight big guys by fighting John, and forcing myself not to cut up his forearms or run. Hashtag run. Hashtag fight like a Sith and throw scenery at them. But what a big guy has to have momentum. So you have to understand, no matter how spry you think you are, the first stride to stride and a half on a big guy is going to be faster. It's in car terms, it's torque. So have you ever seen somebody at a stoplight revving their little sports car next to a big old truck? And the guy in the big old truck loses it, and the sports car goes to pull away, the big old truck just whops right past him for the first 2 or 3 car lengths. That's because the gearing and the motor and everything is designed to get a large mass of cargo moving and generating that initial surge to get the momentum to keep going. That means well, yes. But that means in the short area, the surge of a big guy is far faster than most people expect. So you need to hang out. Actually, initially, the best thing you can do is hang out just beyond the reach of them post the surge. So basically, the equivalent of outside of their reach plus a lunge. Because what happens is, and it really is a mechanical timing thing for dealing with larger opponents. In that area, if you are within their equivalent space of about a lunge, they can get anywhere in there faster than you can. So what you want to do is bait them to expend that surge. You don't want to, there's a time to jump in when you're short, but what you want to do is get them to jump in, because as soon as they're done, if you come from a different angle, they have to fight the momentum that they've generated to recalibrate their aim. And that's when you come in and hit. Well, yes, John, and that's why that as a larger person, you have to train to adjust. But I will tell you, of the times I've beat you, most of them were in a counter beat to that. The only other being occasionally I could get in fast enough and under that before you could break like a wave, I could a check mark motion. Come in, dip low under your attack, come up and in, because it's not just a vertical flat travel. It's 3-dimensional. You have to bob and then rise back up, usually running a kind of angled. So you're taking Spanish and making it more 3-dimensional. But that takes timing. And that's the one thing a book can't teach you. A video can't quite teach you it. You have to get out and spar with an opponent who is reasonably opposing you. You have to develop timing. That sense of rhythm, that sense of measure, not just measure in space like reach measure, but measure of what you can do in X amount of time and when you can do it. That's the complexity and the dance part of what we do. You were the one I developed on. Well, yeah, because my job was to help you. I wanted to see you go out and prove a bunch of dickhead wire weenies wrong. And pardon me if I got a little less subtle for that. Normally I'm a lot more civil, but I hate it. I hate bullies, guys. I absolutely pathologically despise bullies. It affects my politics. It affects my social standards. And at that time, it had been decided, and it was spoken about, that someone of a certain size and a certain background couldn't play because it couldn't be done safe. And if that didn't just well, yeah. John, so did I. I did my half of that style on Peter, and that's what he told me I was doing right in his "What Are You Doing Right" class, which was a fascinating course. There's a gentleman in the STA who goes by Professor Peter. He had titles that were stricken from him. That is a level of politics I'm not going to touch. But he's one of those people I really personally, I had never had a problem with him, and I highly respect his fighting style. He would do what you're doing right. He would spar with you for a while, and then at the end of the sparring session, after you'd played for a bit and you were hot and sweaty, instead of the usual, well, this is what you're doing wrong, fix this and this, he'd say, you're doing this, and it really works well for you, so that you could work towards your strengths, not just away from your weaknesses. And I was told that the way I avoided his strength, I refused his blade. I would give him almost no tacto with blade-to-blade connection. Couldn't, because I knew as a prodigious heavy fighter, he was much stronger than I was. So there was no point being in that game. I always met his yang with yin. Just he wants to bowl through, just get out of the way. And there's a temptation. A lot of little guys in like Syndicate, stop, jut in fast and get the kill while you can. The problem is big guys expect that because that's how little guys fight. Yeah. He talked to me after that. Yes, it is. It is, and it's a sign. It's something I've taken really to heart because it does a couple things. One, it does educate, and two, if all you do is point out what somebody's doing wrong, it's hard on them. It's hard on their ego. A lot of people that I've dealt with have come from a position of having been bullied, and they don't need another bully in their life. And just going, you're going great. That generic encouragement doesn't always help. In fact, it can be detrimental because it's taken as ingenuous. But if you go, now look, this is what you're doing right. Keep doing that. Let me go down the line. Excluding Trelena for a while because it's almost difficult for me to explain my assessment of Trelena's fighting style because we've been fighting for so long together that it's just other half. It's a very strange thing. But somebody like Jim's a great example. Jim had, and he did before We were just sticks, single stick, because I start everybody single. I want to know how you move. So I'm inclined to start you with about a 3-foot long stick of some sort and see how you move, and then use that to assess what kind of weapon you need. But from that, he was one of the most stout defensive people I've ever taught. Now, I had to encourage a type of aggression and fluidity, but at the same time, I wanted him to realize that elementally, if you're looking at it as an elemental style of how he fights, very grounded, very earthy, very... So a couple things happened. One thing I suggested was put a shield on him to build towards that strength. Whereas somebody like Stef Mari is naturally incredibly aggressive. She's like a flamethrower made fight. So it became about aiming that better and controlling it, but maintaining that. If you're going to be the short person who jumps in the shorts and fire up, fire up, fire up, let's do that. John says, I try to teach people how to get around my defensive actions, but there are always holdbacks that are in my arsenal. And I believe he means Trey is a fun fight. I miss her. Yeah, Trey's a hell of a fight. That is the difference. What John just made is the difference between me and John, and literally me and anybody else. I don't hold back techniques. I do order them. And this actually was a point of great contention at one point between me and John, because he taught a type of technique to Leto that Leto wasn't ready for. He didn't have... You have to have a base understanding of certain things before you move up to be able to apply those right. And it's an experience thing. So we had this really interesting motion. And I learned from conflicts, disagreements when civilly handled are educational for all parties. And I wasn't. He wasn't ready for it, because it took me a year of training him back to get, because the flip shot became a thing he wanted to do every single moment because it was cool. And he got past it, and he got better. Still a good guy. I would love to see him armor up again. But it was a process. John says I move poorly and strangely. No, you don't. You do not move poorly and strangely, John. You are big. You move like a big guy. You move fluid. Victor moves in a more ape-like manner than you. Fake being an ape. You fake that long, and then it goes away. You actually move in a very classic Central Asia martial arts style. I mean, it's exaggerated because of your size, but the silhouette, the motions are very clear. They're very geographically accented. You move like somebody who studied Korean arts. It's not quite your looseness isn't the stuff of some of the more elaborate kung fu guys. It's that there's a rigidity, but there's also a smoothness. So it's very... John said, Steve says we all move broken. Now that's true. All of us work through injuries. John, because of his size. Whenever you deal with somebody who's well over 6 foot, especially if they're overweight, they're going to have hip problems. They're going to have back problems. They probably have foot problems. It's just a hazard of the species. So you can see those hitches, and they can, under normal situations, be good predictors, and it's a good way to analyze your opponent. John says, maybe I misspoke, for that was... I learned I do teach everything when students are ready. Okay. When students are ready, sure. What I was addressing was but there are always holdbacks that are in my arsenal. there's a transition if I've done my job right. And I tell people, my first goal with anybody I teach is for them to be safe. Okay? The second goal I have is to try to make myself as obsolete as possible. What that means is I want them to be able to beat me, because you should. If I teach you the mental devices, given my physical limitations, my relative height, most people should be able to beat me. Maybe not easily, but they should be able to beat me if I've worked with them. And then there's a period where they go from student to colleague. And that's one of the big jumps, because by then, if they've studied and they either choose to move on and study with other people, which I always, go, let me help you find a master who will help you learn more. This, I'll watch how you fight and try to, this looks more your style. Look into that. Because I'm a footstool. I'm not the end all be all. I don't claim that. I help people get up to the next level, or 2 or 3. But usually they have enough wisdom to realize that my analytics are good, and I can stop, I can watch a fight and break down, okay, if you do this next time, it might work better. Or you're doing this, they're doing that. They're killing you this way so that you can fix it. Because I believe if I beat somebody with the same technique 3 times in a row, the fight stops and we go over that till I can't do it anymore. That's how I make better students. I know people of I'm just going to beat you with the same technique and you're going to suffer and you'll figure it out. Bull. Okay? Bull. That's ego crap. That is freaking masturbatory testosterone poison bullshit. If you're teaching somebody and they are failing to grasp a concept and you are using that to continually beat them, to defeat them, what is the purpose of what you're doing? Now, I have known sword masters. They don't even deserve that term. I've known individuals who train people, who deliberately train flaws. I know individuals who will not instruct past a certain point. The merit of the swordmaster is not by their personal skill. The merit of the swordmaster is about the student's growth. And the moment you forget that, anybody, and I'm not railing on John. I don't want you to think I am. John just managed to trip a really good landmine in my mind. Because when I talk about, I'm not talking about John. I've known other people who do this. If you're doing that and you're just beating them the same way, if you're keeping it to yourself, you're doing it so you can beat them later. Yes, that was a historical, valid sword instructor safety thing. But if I'm fighting for my life, it's not going to be that way anyway. And that's not what I'm about. When I say, yeah, I will teach you, there's a contract. And I'm an incredibly lawful individual. The good or evil will switch before the lawful does. Not many people get that. But I said I'm going to teach you. And if I know you're doing something, I can beat you that way. It is my duty and my obligation as an instructor, as a sword master, and as somebody who's trying not to be a douchebag, to say, this is how you're losing. This is what's happening. And I will ape the motion painfully slow, literally 4 hours if that's what it takes, 4 weeks if that's what it takes, to let them see how their flaw is working and help them work past it. Because I never will willingly be accused of, you didn't teach them right, or you didn't teach them. I do teach John says first goal safety, how to move, how to be fluid and not succumb to the same. Teach them to overcome and defend the technique, not to not succumb. Yeah, basically. But it also breaks down to the philosophy of trainers. And there are three kinds of trainers. I can't make the three number right now. My hand won't do it. So, I can make another gesture much easier. But there are the people who are in it for the prestige. And you'll find this in a lot of LARP-style groups. I am insert title here, and the fact that all these people are under me makes me better. Okay. And after you're done inhaling your own BS, whatever. That's what they're about. That's their motivator. Then there are people who, I'm here for the money. I know of one guy who charged a kid $180 an hour to teach him a single downward strike. I don't care if you're the reincarnation of freaking Musashi himself. Like the reincarnation of Miyamoto Musashi could be like, I will charge you. You're being a cock. And yes, I might get my butt kicked for my beliefs, but it's not the first time. It won't be the last. And then you got the guy like me. I want you to be better than you are. And further, I want you to be better than me. When things work best, I'm just walking around lighting fireworks. You guys are the bottle rockets. I'm just trying to find the right spark that will ignite what you have to. And I get to watch the light come off. And if I do it right, a lot of times I'm forgotten in the gun smoke behind. And that's okay. Because it's not about me. It's not about, behold my awesomeness. Because I'm a short, fat, furry man who's held together with elastic and hate. Let's be honest, elastic and love. But hate and love look a lot alike. Anyway, we have, as students, we should seek people who are training for our own benefit, who are working to make us better for better sake. It's a rare thing. As instructors, we have to constantly keep our egos in check. It's not about the worker, it's about the work. Steve says, no, it's not. Ungrateful pricks. You know what? I appreciate the sentiment, Steve. And it is what it is. A large part of why I've videotaped so much of what I do, why I'm out here talking about it, and I'm writing books, and I'm gesticulating, and I'm passionate. You hear me roaring. Brother Love's Travel and Salvation Show has hit this week, is because I get not just my own mortality. That's between me and the creator and everything, but my own shelf life. I will live longer than I will be effective in certain things. And because of my conditions, my situation, while I will fight tooth and nail to delay it, I understand intimately that it is a delaying action. That's part of being mortal. That's part of humanity. So we have an obligation to preserve our ideas, preserve our thoughts, preserve our systems, so that people who come later can find a way and not have to necessarily make the same mistakes we did. They can go make a whole new series of mistakes and put it in their books. But that's what I'm about. That's what the guild's about. That's what most of the people in the chats are about. We're trying to build each other up. And I appreciate, guys. I appreciate the sentiment. I gotta look this knife up. Really comfortable. I'm torn right now between which of these is more comfortable, and it may be a handedness thing. But we gotta be true to ourselves, okay? What value has an unexamined life? If I don't know what's going on with me, I can't make adjustments. If I let myself, I'm fine. Nick, you're on fire. Nope, I'm fine. When I'm lying to them and I'm lying to myself. Which is not what we got to be about. We got to be true. We got to be honest. And when we take students, as soon as we step in the ring, everything is left behind but the job. You know, I don't care who you are. Once we've stepped in that list field, everybody gets treated almost exactly the same. God bless it. You got to build yourselves up. You got to build each other up. You got to be honest about it. If you read my book, okay, and this is, it's getting a part where I plug it, but this isn't about the money, guys. I wouldn't have it free for Kindle Unlimited if it wasn't about the book. If it was about the money, it's about somebody needs, because I've read the old masters, and a lot of the old masters were dicks. They were good at what they did, but they had an ego that doesn't need to be there. We have gotten past that if we let ourselves. And I believe the people who are drawn to what I do, what the guild is about, have the potential to move past that. And they're serving, yeah, they want to get better. I want to be a better fighter. I want to get out and be more skilled, my timing better, my movements better. Right now, it's all about adapting. But let me make sure, sorry. It has to be about how the work is going. Because the person who comes to you is coming to you because they need something. And maybe they just want to learn self-defense. Maybe and that's the thing. If they just want to learn, you teach them fine. But there's a lot of people come to us broken. They want to learn to fight to either be the heroes in their mind or be stronger, or the person that they're fighting against isn't the person that's their enemy. They're taking back power that was taken from them. It's important. It's therapeutic. It's necessary. And it has to be handled with care, with respect, and genuine love. And I'm not talking perviness. I'm talking real love. Caring about the well-being, the growth, the emotions, the healing of another, even if it's at your own detriment. John says, I haven't seen the Nick for a long time. And I don't know if you mean my old fighting style or you mean the absolute fervor in which I just engaged the subject matter. I haven't been me in a long time. Or Trey, okay, you mean in person, yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen anybody. And or Mandy. We are fighting right now. And never doubt it, you look around, we are fighting a war on despair. Fighting a war on against the forces that would remove personal decency. And the war is not external. I'm not talking about hurting other people. I'm talking about looking at ourselves, about our weaknesses, our strengths, seeking a better, purer, realer, awake version there's a person that is trapped in this body, in this situation, that is not what I am supposed to, not what I am right now. And it's not about warped nostalgia. It's not about worshiping youth. Uh, I've earned my scars. I've earned my gray hair. Uh, I've earned most of my braces one way or another. Even if it's just by enduring the pain of what's happening naturally, because, whatever's wrong with me is wrong with me. That's fine. I wouldn't trade that in. But, John says, I want to teach those who will replace me, my heirs, my students. Yeah. That's why I say, I've come to several people in the last recent years. Came to Sword Sage. I've come to Steve to an extent. Definitely knocking on your door, John Miner, and saying, it is time to take pen to paper, get your oversized meat hooks on the keyboard, and write your style. And I know you've started, and I am dang proud of you. You have to preserve what you do for when you're not here, because the ideas are more important than the man, more important than their presence. And that's what we need to do. We need to take our finest ideas, purify them, condense them, and preserve them. Because if it's a good idea is immortal, it's timeless, it's bulletproof. The real thoughts, and I don't just mean techniques, but the whys, the spirit, the philosophy, the big thoughts. Those are what we have to preserve. Well, and then Steve, in your case, I have no idea. Steve says, I no idea how to define what I do. You may have to break it up. This is my first volume. That's why it's volume 1 on sword fighting and instruction. It may not be as fire and brimstone as I do, but it's this. This is not all of me. I have art. I have a convoluted philosophy of metaphysics and religion and spirituality and experience. You need to wrap that up. Cindy Kep says, Steve Clausen, that you may need a co-writer. I agree. Steve has a blatant curse of having people that he lets in his life who either do not push him to be his greater potential or refuse to push themselves to be theirs. And Steve is the kind of person who I feel desperately needs a certain grade of partner. And yeah, because what part of it is because of some of what he's done, he can't legally talk about it directly. But not many people know that Steve is a wonder when it comes to basic firearms instruction. As somebody who spent 20 years teaching people things, I watched how he taught. He's very good at it. He needs to write a book on that. That alone would be of value. You have to break it into subcategories. So write a treatise, write a few chapters, write something on that. Write a few chapters on your take on the martial arts. What you've cobbled together that works. Fictionalize the parts you can't talk about. I'll give you a hint. I do. I hide stuff in my in what I'm writing now. Um, what I wrote before, John, you know full well because you're one of the few people who's read modern mythology in its original version. I hide real occasions and deep six it in fiction because some things people can't process or they won't believe. So you put it in a fictional format because the story may be more important than the accuracy. Uh, and that's something I'm actually fighting with my own writing. How do I tell these stories? Because I could tell them as, well, I went on this thing and I did this and this happened. Or I could tell it from a third person about somebody else so that I could put the story out there and it might be more amusing without it, the background backwashing on me. That's part of the wonderful challenge of being an author. But we have a capacity and a gift as the paragon of animals. We know our mortality and we can do things to offset what we value beyond our mortality. I write because what I want to tell a story. I can't not. The stories are going to be in my head. I want people to have enjoyment. I want people to have experiences. I want them to have education. I publish because I have a son and I am not wealthy. And I'm the leftovers, the residuals, the royalties of anything I can make like that get transferred to him. And after I'm gone, hopefully his world will be better financially. Which is a horrible way to look at it, but that's how I look at it. My life is not my own. I do not live a hedonistic existence. If I did, I would be on some sedate little beach somewhere doing just enough to keep myself fed, clothed, and an excuse to be underwater. The running joke of the mighty manatee man, a shallow water dwelling, totally hedonistic little fella who doesn't want to hurt anybody, just wants to be left alone to have a nice time. There's a part of me that will always, would always aspire to be a West Coast beach bum. Not a care in the world. When I lived in a van down by the river isn't ideal. But that's also not, that's what if I were he, and I'm not. I want to hang out with my wife. I love my wife. It's shocking. You could actually marry someone you love, stay with them, and even if you rage and want to bash each other's skulls and you still love them, that can't happen. I love my son. I want us to have a good life. And right now, it's not like I could go do a 9 to 5. Some days I'm lucky to get off the couch. I raise him best I can. I help you look at what you have. You have challenges and you have opportunities. And one thing about Steve, is he is working his ass off to build a future. And I respect that. John has been working his ass off, although it's getting time for John to get off the freaking merry-go-round. He has earned that step down of retirement. I want to see there. Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were, John. But yeah, some people can do that. Yeah. It's funny. Right now, my phone is pinging from 2 or 3 different messengers of people telling me, how dare you say something nice about me? It's not the truth. Sorry, folks. You're going to hear the truth out of me. If I'm running after the 2-hour mark, I am Brothers Love Traveling Salvation Traveling Salvation Show Part 2, The Revenge. We got to do that, and that's what we're going to do. That's what you're doing. The people who talk to me that I know, they're writing, they're creating, they're working. And some people are working jobs to make a buck, and some people are using those crud jobs to make major changes in other people's lives. And that is glorious, and that is what we're about. And when you hit the field, keep that fire. when you teach, when you have something you're passionate about, share it. Use that fire to forge others into better versions of themselves, to forge yourself. And that's what I want to see. And that's the price I ask so often of getting to hear what little bits of wisdom my furry hobbit self can generate. You know, there's many old bits of things that rattle around my family. There's a use it up, wear it out, make do without. I mean, this has been drummed into my skull. But yeah, if you have something, you have it for a reason. And I do believe whatever you perceive divinity to be, he, she, it, they, the boss, capital letters, big old period. Whatever that influence, even if it's just random chance, you have gifts. And nothing is free. There's no free lunch. The trick with your gifts, the price for admission in this wonderful game we call life, is you got to figure out what your gift is and use it to the best you can. And I believe you can. I believe everybody who watches this can. Heck, I'm doing my best with what I got. And sometimes I fail. A lot of times I fall flat on my face. And you will too. But we get back up. When you're teaching people, you will make mistakes. You will piss off students. You'll even teach them wrong. But if you've been earnest, if you're really trying your best, they'll be smart enough to figure it out. And if people walk from you and you've done your best, you just wish them well and keep walking. Yeah, you'll miss them. Yeah, it will at times feel like a piece of your heart has been scooped out with a rusty spoon. But you'll keep walking because it's the right thing to do. Okay. Gotcha. But, well, guys, I've ran 12 minutes late. So I want to thank John Miner. I want to thank Steve Clausen. And I want to thank the delightful, as always, Cindy Kep for chatting with me over the comments. And please, if you do watch these videos, guys, turn on that. If you like what I'm doing and you haven't, please subscribe, because I'm trying to do this every week, at least during this whole mess, until I can get some students out here. Then I may have to move my show, because if I have a chance to teach people face to face, I'll take it. And if not, I'll keep doing this. So if you do like that, like, share, comment, please. If you want to learn more about what I teach and how I fight, really, I said it before, I'll say it again, the simple sword. This isn't quite my Bible, but this is a lot of philosophy. Wow, speech impediment. A lot of knowledge, a lot of scaled wisdom. Hit me up on Amazon. I build worlds when I'm not doing this. There's going to be, if all goes well, a whole lot of world crafting in my immediate future. And I want to share those worlds with you, give you fun places to enjoy. And thank you. Thank you for spending a Friday night looking to a screen while if that guy in the Hawaiian shirt goes completely fire and brimstone in a caffeine-fueled, good old-fashioned tirade. I needed that, I think. I think you needed it too. And whatever happens at the end of this, guys, you got to be good to yourselves. Be kind to each other. Keep your guard up. Do your drills. And as always, thank you ahead. And please continue to support your local swordmaster.